and welcome to Bead Jar. My name is Billy, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make this Peyote Triad bracelet using two colours and leather to put it together. I do hope you enjoy it. For this project I'm going to be weaving a peyote stitch with the size 11 Miyuki Delicas. Sorry, these are size 10 Miyukis, and we have a starter bead here, a kimono clasp that I'll be using with leather though, some 6-pound black Fireline, precision scissors, and some 2.5 leather in a dark brown. And we're going to be creating these tubes in the peyote stitch. I would highly recommend, if you have some graph paper before starting this project, to plan out how you'd like your pattern. So as you can see on this one, this is going to be the middle section of our bracelet project, and I've created these V shapes using the copper coloured beads in between. It's much easier to start with a graph, and I found as well, if I mark my numbers, so this being the row and this the line, then I can really plan out how I'm going to put this project together to give me this effect. As I mentioned, this is going to be our middle section for our bracelet, and we're also going to create two tube sections for the side of our project with the same peyote stitch. So I'll go ahead and start to show you how we make this up, and you'll just be able to create a graph, and I've done a simple version, so just with the lined effect through it for our tubes, and I'll show you how we put these together as well. So start with your size 10 beading needle and about 2 meters of your black Fireline, and take a starter bead as well. So onto this you want to go through the starter bead. I've used a gem duo, but an O bead will work just fine. And you want to leave a tail end of about 15 centimeters for your project. So I'm just going back and forth a couple of times through the gem duo so this doesn't slide. So I've just gone through twice, and that's ready for me to start this project. So this bead will be coming off. We won't have a strange turquoise bead as part of our project here. And I'm just going to place some sellotape on the gem duo so that I can start the stitch and it won't move too much whilst we're showing the video. And this will help you as well, so you're not flipping from top to bottom and it'll stay in the right order. So we just want to make that, I'm going to take that a bit higher. Okay. So I've got my graph as well that I'll be working with, so I can follow easily what beads I need to put on to make my pattern. So you've got your size 10 Miyukis. I'm just bringing some grey ones here as well. So we're going to pick up the 1 and 2 in the grey, and I'm going to pick up 3, 4. So bead 3 and 4. Like I say, I've got my chart here so I can see which ones I'm doing. And then 5, 6 down to 10 in the grey. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 in the grey. So this is going to be my first row for my project. So you can see there we've gone up to the starter bead and we're coming down, and then I'm going to start my next row, which is going to go up. Now I'm following my graph again, so I need 11, and that needs to be a copper colour. So I'm pick up the copper, and you need to have a bit of patience when starting your project, as it will want to move and be naughty and not sit correctly. So we're going to start the second row, and I'm going to pick up the copper and then go through the second bead up on our first row, from our first row. And you'll notice then I'm pulling the thread through, and we're going to create these two bottom beads are going to sit next to each other side by side, like so. So they're sat side by side. And then we're adding our next bead that will sit to the side of the third line. So that's going to be number 12 bead, and that needs to be grey. Again, I've checked with my chart to make sure I've not done that incorrectly. So we're going up through the bead, and that will also sit side by side to the first one on the third line. So then we're on the fourth line, so you check with your chart, and that's going to be my 13th bead that I'm picking up, and that needs to be a grey. So I pick up and I go either side and pull up. You'll notice my copper bead at the bottom has just slid a bit, so I'm just going to make sure that's sat side by side as well, and then pull that tension a bit more on the thread here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was row 6. So you want to count that up on your grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have another grey. So we're doing 18 and 17 in grey as well. So we miss this one and put a grey, and we go through the next copper above it. Now you can really start to see the zigzag pattern with this stitch, and we're doing another grey. No, my apologies, we're going to now add another copper for our V, and then we're going to go through the next grey. So keep checking all the way along with your grid that you've created. So we're getting this line of the copper colour coming up here, and you're going to pick up another copper, and when you're starting your third row, so this is the third row down, so I've picked up the copper, and we're not going back through the copper bead but the second copper bead underneath, so you miss that one that you've just added and you're coming back down. Then there's going to be a grey bead, back through the grey bead, oops, just keep them out of the way so you can see clearly what I'm doing. And so forth. So I'm going to keep going with my pattern, constantly checking with my grid so I know which position the beads are in. And as you progress, this is what you're going to start creating. I've added a fancy bit here, that's completely up to you, and of course you can design anything you want as long as you make your grid first, otherwise it can get a bit confusing. So we are creating a length here that's going to make a tube for the middle section for our leather to pass through. So I'll show you how we connect these ends together as well. And you do need to just be aware, whichever pattern you decide to design, that it kind of adds up correctly at the end so that your pattern will work back into itself on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and show you how to put that together after you've threaded up your bead. So we've reached the end of our tube pattern here, and that was where we started. We've got to the end. obviously I cheated and had this pre-prepared. So we're coming out of this last bead here. Now when you've got your tube completed, you just need to check that that pattern is going to join up, and if not, you just need to add one more row, and then this kind of brickwork will fit together, so they'll all come in and sit next to each other correctly. So this is where I've come out, and I'm going to actually hold it in this way to connect them. So I'm going to go up the next bead, so that's going to bring those two halves together. You can pull it tighter at the end, so try not to worry too much. And then I'm going to go back onto the left hand side through that bead, across again, so I'm zigzagging my way up. Through the beads. Take your time, there's no need to rush on this, and we can complete this effect easily. We're going to go up and across until we've got all the way to the top. So we've got the tube connecting, so I'm just going to flip that round because I've come out of the top now and I'm going to work from my right hand. I want to pull that next bead in as well, so I'm just going to come back across and downwards. We will be getting rid of that other starter thread as well very soon. So I've come back down, and I'm also going to go now through the next two beads. That's not for pulling it in, but actually because we're going to finish off our project now before getting rid of that other side as well. So I've just come down two beads and my thread's coming out from the grey one. And what I need to do is to take my needle between the two beads, and I'm trying to grab a thread that's run down through one of my rows. So what I've managed to do there is just loop underneath one of the Fireline rows that's going down, and as I pull through, a loop's going to form here with the Fireline, and I want to take my beading needle back through that loop and then pull that in tight. So I want that knot to sit between these beads here. So we're going to go down in between them and then back through another two beads. Slightly go diagonally. So we're back through those next two, and as you'll notice, as we pull that knot just disappears beautifully into those beads. And I'm going to do another knot here. So get under a thread. I don't know if you can just make it out, it is just running over the top of that beading needle there, so that we can create the loop. Through the loop, tease that knot down, and then back through your beads. I'm happy that that's not moving anywhere now, so I'm just going to take my needle out to the bottom my knots have disappeared, and I'm going to take that thread away now. So getting as close as you can. There we are. So as you can see, that pattern's continued all the way around. This is actually going to be my front section, as I've just created this little bit of detail as an extra there. And I've taken my beading needle from the thread I had, and I'm going to now connect that to the starting thread we had, and I'm going to repeat that process. So put the needle back on, through some of your beads, 2 knots, out through the bottom, and cut away your excess. And that will give us our tube for the middle. So this one's going to sit this way. You're also going to create, so with the same peyote weave, peyote stitch, but these tubes are actually going to sit this way for the second half of the project. So there you can see one I've made, completed, and put together as a tube. So they're going to be the side ones. And that's how I started with my starter bead. And I made a grid for this as well, so I could follow my pattern down, working in the rows the same way we've done this one. And then that will also come together now to make another tube for the opposite side. Okay, so now you've got to the same part as me, and we've got our 2 tubes for the side and our middle section. As you can see, I've pre-threaded some of the leather just to show you how that's going to be working together. So you want to cut your leather into 20 centimeter lengths. So I'm just cutting my 3rd one now to show you. So take that off, and you're going to thread that through your middle stitch, and then you bring the threads together and to go through the tube to the side. Just want your ends even there. And we're going to go through the tube we've made with the leather. The leather will soften as you wear the bracelet, so if it seems a bit springy at the beginning, don't worry too much. So there we have that, and I think that's really interesting shape that it creates, and that's going to be our bracelet. Now you can go ahead and choose the length that you want for your bracelet, so you decide what you're making up, and then we'll be ready to glue on our ends. So get your length and trim your leathers down, making sure that they're all completely even. So I've cut my leather down. Here's one side I've pre-prepared. So I've glued my kumihimo end onto the leather. And a really good tip here, so this is the opposite side, is to take a pair of pliers and to squeeze the leather down. I'm using the 6mm kumihimo end because it just looks, and you'll agree I'm sure, a lot tidier. It's not too big and the leathers are sitting, but you've got to be a bit patient when you're threading it on because it is tight, but this is a good thing. So I'm going to go and put some Fevikwik into the end and then slide these in. So like I say, I've got my pliers and I've crushed them flat, and now I'm going to put the glue in. You can protect your bead carpet by using a paper underneath. Be reasonably generous with your glue, but you don't want to go too crazy either and then have a real mess of glue everywhere. So we've popped our Fevikwik on and we're going to start threading the ends in. Woo! It's a lively one. So pushing the leather ends in that I've crushed down with the pliers. Might need to be quite forceful at this point to really push those ends in together. Okay, so just spin that round, make sure they're all in. And then I'm going to let the glue dry. So I've done the other side with the glue and let that dry, so I can now show you. And I'm going to open the jump ring from my Kumihimo set so I can connect the fastener on. So you just want to open the jump ring, connect that to the loop of the fastener. I can move my pad out of the way now as well. And one side of the fastener onto there. And whilst I'm putting this end together, my other one should be dry. So just close that jump ring back together and make sure it's really, really well secure so it can't slide off and there's no opening there. And then if we swap that round. So I'm just opening the second jump ring and connecting that on. And we'll close that back together again. With the pliers. Now my next part is I really want this fancier piece sat in the middle of my bracelet, and there's the side tubes and the fastener that's all nice and securely on. As I say, it might be a bit rigid to start. It's because it's the leather, but it will soften up, especially as you wear it, as our natural acids in the skin soften the leather as we wear it and make that more movable. Oop, not pushed it up tight enough. There we go. Just push your tubes up so that they're closer to the middle section there. And there you have that really fabulous bracelet with the size 10 Miyuki Delicas. Thank you for watching today's tutorial. If you've enjoyed it, remember to give us a big thumbs up, and that you can also subscribe now to our YouTube channel to watch all of our latest creations and designs. Until the next time, bye.